Hey, well, I'm excited to be here with Aidan Mouat, the CEO of Hazel Technologies, and we're here at CES, second day. Did you hear first day? How'd it go?
It's been fun. A lot of energy. I know that there was a few dropouts and some uncertainty because of the whole pandemic situation, but there was a lot of bounce back, and I feel like the big tech giants falling back gives a lot of space for a lot of new and emerging companies to show up, and that's fun, right?
Yeah, we don't need to see another large HDTV screen. We want to see.
You were excited about Microsoft
we
presentation.
Hey, the interesting stuff's always down in the basement at Eureka Park here. It's where all the startups are. I encourage people to go there whenever they come to CES. But we're here to talk about Hazel and what you guys do. You guys do produce life extension technology. Explain what Hazel does.
Sure. So we're here to stop food waste, kind of at the highest level. And the way that we go about doing that is we craft packaging materials and packaging material inserts that we've sort of activated using atmospheric chemistry to be able to control key parameters in perishable food shelf life during the storage and transit process. So what we've really done is we've taken biochemistry, we've functionalized conventional packaging materials and conventional storage and transport situations, and added what I like to think of as, you think about digital tech stacks, I like to think of it as the chemical tech stack. We've added a new layer of biochemistry to that food storage system to extend shelf life.
So a grocery store has a package of avocados, it has a package of bananas or something, tomatoes. Is your product going in the inserts that those products come in, and because of that they last weeks longer?
Oftentimes, yeah. So we view it as you can imagine with a technology like this, it proliferates, right? It's very scalable. A sachet about yay big, maybe an inch by an inch, is enough to treat an entire master case of produce, and that's about 60 pounds.
Okay.
So the footprint's very small, the technology effect is very large, and that means that we can incorporate it into practically any environment in that food storage and transport system. So right now we do a lot of work kind of on the supply side, going into the retail section. But ultimately, when we think about the holistic supply chain, we're really thinking about how we proliferate that technology through every segment of the market. So we're interfacing with 3PLs and carriers, working on doing data and analytics in those environments. We're working with retailers, working on figuring out how to upscale and revitalize their own storage and transport practices, and ideally, ultimately, even a consumer-based product.
It changes the game when you think about it. Hey, I can now have this product last longer in kind of when it's in the distribution value chain. Because if you want to ship from Mexico up to Canada, the produce might not make it. But if you have something like a technology like this that says, hey, we can extend the life of this, it is a game changer for farmers and food distributors.
And we have to adapt to changing world circumstances. So what you're describing is already going on all over the world, right? I mean, you've got Colombia putting in thousands of hectares of new farmland. You've got Peru doing the same, Chile. Supply chains are changing. I mean, especially as climate changes, one of the interesting side effects of that is that growing areas that previously were very high production are probably going to fall off a little, and growing areas that traditionally haven't been high production are going to come up a little. So we very much have to adapt to that world, and that's why that's one of the core strengths that we think we have at Hazel, is this ability to very rapidly and with very low cost and effort penetrate each of those emerging supply chains in order to keep sort of global food supplies stabilized.
I love to always ask a founder, what was the aha moment? Was this something you worked on for years, or were you lying there or taking a shower and said, I'm going to create this sachet? What's the origin story of the product?
That's a great question. There's kind of two, I suppose. One is sort of on the chemical side, where we looked at, one of our key technologies is what we call ethylene inhibition. It allows us to stop the effects of the aging hormone ethylene from causing fruits and vegetables to go bad faster. And we first started off thinking about it the way that everybody else in the world thinks about it, which is how do you control ethylene? How do you reduce it? How do you contain it? How do you destroy it? That's not a very good system because you've always got ethylene concentrations. It's already doing damage. So you're sort of mitigating a worst case scenario, but it's certainly not your best case scenario. Okay. So we said, well, wait a minute, what if we can mimic ethylene chemistry in the atmosphere but use essentially the antidotes to these problems instead of using ethylene itself as the key trigger point. So we started with a different molecule, and we figured out a way to introduce it in sort of this sustained, slow release, very low cost, very low effort environment, and lo and behold, that's your best-in-class solution right now. So that's the technical innovation. The other piece of the equation, I think, really comes down to when we finally gained a real understanding of the complexity of supply chains.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to be, I don't want to pretend like I'm some ivory tower chemist or whatever it is, where I did my PhD at Northwestern. But the truth is that if you haven't worked with farmers and suppliers and like gone through how complex logistics really are, you don't really appreciate that there's not a lot of space there for a new process or a new piece of equipment. It's very difficult to do. You're basically trying to boil the ocean. You're trying to rewrite a supply chain every time you build a new piece of equipment. So we looked at it and we said, well, wait a minute, we can't go that route. We said, if we do it that way, all we're doing is just building another set of supply chains that, maybe that could have some positive impact, but it's not going to change the paradigm of the food world. So we wanted something that could go everywhere. I mean, everywhere in the world, everywhere in the supply chain, et cetera. And this idea of putting the chemistry into the actual packaging materials that are being used today already, that's I think, the other piece of that innovation that drives the major change.
Yeah, I always find don't try to force a behavior change on people who are already highly invested into existing systems. You're going to have a lot higher chance of success. So kudos to you for kind of thinking in that way.
I appreciate it. I mean, people talk about like incremental change versus step change, and I think even if you have a new kind of chemistry or whatever it is, if you shape that technology to look like technologies that have come before it, that's incremental. No matter what you're going to do with it, no matter how powerful it really is, the adoption will be incremental. So we wanted to do it the other way, and I don't think we have a competitor, to be honest. Not in that true sense. There aren't anybody else out there using active biochemistry in packaging type environments like this. That is how we hope to affect the real step change. I think you got to go that way.
So Hazel Technologies, you guys are out there. You're in there. What's exciting for you guys for the next year? Any kind of new things you got on the horizon?
Oh yeah, quite a few. We're opening up our West Coast facility now, so that's in Fresno. We're very excited about that because for our U.S. customer base, at least, 65% of all specialty crop agriculture in the U.S. comes out of California.
Sure.
So we'll be right down the street from the people that we've been serving for the past 3 or 4 years already, and we're very much looking forward to the quality of data and the kinds of experiments we can do that are going to drive our technology forward. Simultaneously, we're moving into our new location in Chicago. So I'm told by the know-it-alls in Chicago real estate, we will be running the largest chemical R&D operation in the city of Chicago, even as a relatively young startup. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then all of that is geared towards kind of what we've already started building, which is massive amounts of international expansion. We've got a plan to be more or less in every agronomic production region on the planet by 2025. It's very ambitious, but so far we're hitting about 30-40%, and over the next 3 years or so, we fully expect to be green-lit in at least 15 countries, fully commercial, on-the-ground operations ready to go. So and then of course I didn't even mention, moving out of just the crop treatments into non-crop perishable foods, meats, spreads, things like that. We're actively exploring those technology options as well. So very, very exciting growth time.
Awesome. Well, when the karaoke singers start in the booth next to us, we
got to go join.
That's time for us to go join and cut this interview at the end. Aidan, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right.